My father, who has taken on two families, speaks of equality, yet invariably shows favoritism towards the child of my stepmother, Su and Wei. My mother, harboring resentment, has driven me to strive relentlessly since the day I was born. However, despite a lifetime of striving, I find myself perpetually overshadowed by Su and Wei. Upon being reborn in my mother's womb, I unexpectedly hear the thoughts of the child next door. Humph, I am the chosen one. How dare you, mere cannon fodder, challenge me? What? She is the chosen one, while I am but a stepping stone. Then why should I even bother? I spread my little hands and, with a click of my tongue, decide to give up entirely. 1. With just a month remaining until my birth, I enter a state of delightful languor. I relish the nutrients, occasionally sucking on my tiny fingers. My mother, inspired by my appetite, has also been enjoying her meals, her weight increasing delightfully. Just as I am about to doze off once more, that slightly arrogant little voice echoes in my ears again. As the chosen one, the king of competition, perfect body management must start from the womb. Absorb only the finest essence. I am left speechless. It seems the chosen one has begun competing even before birth. My father's white moonlight, my stepmother Li Wanqing, is suffering from severe morning sickness. Over the days, she has become quite haggard, while my mother glows with health. I can't help but roll over, giving my mother's belly a gentle kick with my tiny foot. From outside, my mother feigns surprise, exclaiming, "Mingza, listen, the baby is kicking me." She must particularly enjoy this Mozart piece. In truth, that cacophonous piano piece gives me a headache. I merely wanted to turn away from the noise. Pleased that father of two families, my mother begins her performance anew. She caresses her round belly, saying, "The doctor said the baby's movements are especially pronounced when she hears music. Perhaps our daughter truly has a musical talent." I think to myself, Mom, don't fabricate lies without preparation. The last time I heard "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," I fell asleep and began snoring. Indeed, Su Mingza is drawn closer. His face hovers near, and I can feel a shadow cast over me through the belly. He gazes at my mother's belly for quite some time. Yet, after much effort, I can only manage to poke a tiny bump on my mother's belly with my finger. And that's it. Father's expression remains unchanged, even tinged with disappointment. He furrows his brow, about to speak. Ah! Suddenly, on the sofa nearby, Li Wanqing lets out a piercing scream of pain, curling up and turning pale as a ghost. "Mingza, it hurts my belly," the baby, she babbles incoherently, drenched in sweat. The music continues to play, yet her once lively belly now twists and turns violently and erratically, with such intensity it seems it might burst forth. Let's get this party started. I want to be the most dazzling baby. Accelerate, accelerate. I want to be the first to emerge and amaze everyone. The little voice, far from panicking, becomes increasingly excited, as if a wild celebration is taking place within. Su Mingza, terrified, scoops up the anguished Li Wanqing and rushes out. "Hold on. We're going to the hospital. The baby is coming early." My mother, startled by the sudden turn of events, stands up as well. Perhaps due to overwhelming emotions, her belly tightens suddenly. "Mingza, I think something might be wrong with me too." Thus, two expectant mothers are hurriedly sent to the hospital. The examination results come swiftly. Li Wanqing's overly active fetus has caused her amniotic fluid to rupture prematurely, but her cervix has only dilated 1 centimeter. As for my mother, nearing her due date and shaken by the commotion, she is also advised to remain in the hospital for observation. The true comparison begins at this moment. In the delivery room, Li Wanqing's cries of agony pierce the air, continuing for a full 3 days and nights. Push. Strive. I want to be the first to meet Grandma. Let's go. The chosen one inside is relentlessly bouncing, each vigorous movement subjecting Li Wanqing to hellish torment. She writhes in pain, drenched in sweat, as if pulled from the depths of water, her lips bloodied from biting. Yet, 3 days pass, and her cervix remains stubbornly at just 1 centimeter. The doctor shakes his head. The mother has expended too much energy, and the fetus is overly active. It seems the position is not quite right, making natural delivery very difficult. 2 in the adjacent delivery room, my mother, having reached her due date and with favorable cervical conditions, was advised by the doctor to administer oxytocin. Adhering to my philosophy of non-interference, I resolutely abstained from causing any disturbances. Feeling my mother exerting effort? Very well, I adjusted my posture in accordance with her rhythm, striving to cooperate. Does she need a moment's respite? Certainly. I immediately fell silent, my fingers gently sucking on themselves to conserve energy. Thus, the birthing process unfolded with remarkable smoothness. In just a few hours, I slid out with a resounding cry, my body soft and pale, resembling a plump little bun. The nurse swiftly cleaned me and promptly placed me in my mother's arms for early contact and breastfeeding. Instinctively, I found my food source and, with great satisfaction, took my first sip of milk, relishing the sweet gulp as a contented, languorous aura enveloped me. Meanwhile, on the other side, Li Wanqing was utterly exhausted. Reduced to a mere breath, and under the relentless turmoil of the chosen one, my struggle caused her fetal heartbeat to show signs of distress. The doctor decisively declared, "No more waiting. A cesarean section must be performed immediately." As I nestled in my mother's embrace, well-fed and blissfully asleep, the surgical lights in the operating room next door had only just illuminated. After a tense cesarean procedure, Su and Wei were finally brought into the world. The child, indeed, appeared gaunt and wrinkled, resembling a frail little monkey, her cries weak and feeble like a mosquito's hum. Not to mention Li Wanqing, who not only suffered from significant exhaustion but also bore a permanent, ghastly scar upon her abdomen. Su Mingzi gazed at the tiny child in the incubator, momentarily taken aback. He then swiftly embraced his tendency for favoritism, leaning in with a face full of affection. Ah, our little genius from the Su family, unmistakably exceptional. Having endured such trials at such a tender age, her resolute spirit guarantees extraordinary achievements in the future. Indeed, you have discerning eyes. I am the chosen one, having weathered trials. Unlike that mere pawn who can only win by lying down. My weak infant voice still managed to engage in comparisons. Grandmother furrowed her brow, casting a glance at the child before her, then at the haggard Li Wanqing, who bore the marks of hardship. Her expression turned grim. Su Mingzi continued his incessant praise. "Mother, look at this child, so spirited. She perks up at the sound of music, absolutely an artistic prodigy." The noise was intolerable. Grandmother coolly interrupted him, her gaze sweeping over the incubator and the hospital bed, her brow furrowing even deeper. What is there to commend when both mother and child are in such disarray? It is evident that they are not blessed with fortune. This remark fell like a bucket of cold water, instantly extinguishing the joy on Su Mingzi and Li Wanqing's faces. Nonsense. Old witch. I am the chosen one. I am the most fortunate. The chosen one's inner voice was filled with exasperation, yet her weakened state rendered her protest feeble. Grandmother, disinterested, turned her gaze toward me. I had just finished nursing, sleeping soundly, my small face rosy and tender, a droplet of milk adorning my lips, breathing evenly, embodying a carefree and plump essence. A genuine smile unexpectedly flickered across grandmother's stern countenance as she approached, scrutinizing me with increasing satisfaction. "Look at this child, so fair and chubby, tranquil and self-sufficient. Eats and then sleeps. What a relief. This is what fortune looks like." As she spoke, she unfastened a beautifully crafted jade pendant from her neck and personally tied it to my swaddling blanket, patting me gently. "Good child. This is what your grandmother appreciates in a granddaughter." Li Wanqing, observing from the side, felt her eyes welling with tears, the pain from her abdomen and the inferno of jealousy burning within her. Su Mingzi's smile froze as he looked at my bestowed honor, then at the genius he had high hopes for but who was now neglected, causing his face to shift from pale to green. The jade pendant should be mine. The fortune should be mine. The old witch lacks discernment. The chosen one's inner voice resonated with disbelief and fury, yet it could only feebly echo within her own little world. From that moment on, the path of the chosen one, Su and Wei, was resolutely directed toward winning grandmother's favor, while I continued my leisurely pursuits. 3 grandmother came to visit us. Watch me. I will certainly lift my head before that pawn does. Let grandmother know who the clever baby truly is. Su and Wei struggled with all her might, her small face turning crimson, trembling yet unable to prop herself up, her frustration evident in her grunts, a rather comical sight. As for me, I lay comfortably, occasionally lazily turning my little head to change my direction and continue daydreaming. Grandmother chuckled, pinching my cheek. Wei is too impatient. Her heart is restless. Our little Yuga, however, is composed and steady. Yet, Su and Wei refused to relent, gritting her teeth as she attempted to sit. This time I shall succeed. I will sit upright. Forced into a sitting position, her small body swayed unsteadily, wobbling back and forth until, with a thud, she toppled over and erupted into a wailing protest. I was propped up by my mother for a while, feeling slightly fatigued, and so I relaxed and slowly flopped back down, happily seizing my little toes to nibble on. reveling in my own delight. Grandmother laughed. Look at this child, so content and jovial, such a good temperament. Wei, on the other hand, is too competitive, which only serves to annoy. Later, grandmother entertained us with a rattle. Su and Wei was anxious, eager to be the first to speak. Call grandmother. Quickly, call grandmother. I want to be the first to speak. Let that pawn see who the true chosen one is. She made various peculiar sounds, attempting to form the word grandmother, but ended up drooling and producing meaningless noise. I blinked at the rattle, finding the sound delightful, and thus cooperatively let out a few giggles. Grandmother promptly handed the rattle to me, lifting me into her arms and planting a kiss on my cheek. Oh, my little joy, your laughter is truly enchanting. Su and Wei. The expressions on Li Wanqing and Su Ming's faces grew increasingly grim. They watched as the favored daughter was repeatedly overlooked, while I, the slacker king, stumbled into the spotlight time and time again. Jealousy transformed Li Wanqing's visage. She began to take advantage of the moments when my mother was distracted by Su Ming's secretly tormenting me. She hid biting ants in my diaper. Let them bite her, let her cry and fuss, and see if grandmother still favors her. The excited thoughts of Su and Wei echoed. I frowned, sensing something amiss with my bottom, and immediately burst into tears, successfully attracting the caregiver's attention, who promptly discovered the ants. She added a substance to my drinking water that would irritate an infant and provoke crying. Drink up, become an annoying little crybaby. I discerned the odd taste, resolutely resisting the bottle with my tongue, refusing to drink no matter how hard I was fed, stubbornly spitting it out and crying for help once more. After several failed attempts, Li Wanqing finally lost her composure. She decided to take a risky move. During a family gathering, while grandmother was playfully engaging with me, Li Wanqing feigned affection, drawing near with a small needle concealed in her hand. Mother, you are right. My sister's child is indeed more obedient. She smiled, her fingers stealthily reaching for my arm, and with a sharp jab, I let out an unprecedented, piercing scream, my small face instantly turning crimson. A fleeting look of triumph flickered across Li Wanqing and Su and Wei's faces. Humph, let us see you compete with me. Crying in front of so many people will surely embarrass grandmother. Now was the moment. I cried out with all my heart, struggling fiercely, my little arms breaking free from the swaddle, flailing wildly. On my soft, fair arms, several already bruised needle marks were glaringly visible. Grandmother, it hurts, I sobbed. My cries punctuated by incoherent syllables as I pointed to my arm. Grandmother's smile froze instantly. She grasped my little arm, leaning in for a closer look, her face suddenly darkening ominously. Her sharp gaze shot toward the pale-faced Li Wanqing. What on earth is happening here? Li Wanqing immediately donned a look of profound sorrow, her expression akin to that of someone on the verge of tears. Mom, what is this? How could this happen? She took the initiative, her voice tinged with a quavering note, as if she were the victim of an unfathomable injustice. How could a child be hurt? My goodness, this looks truly terrifying. Su Mingzi swiftly moved forward, not to assess my injuries, but rather to position himself protectively beside Li Wanqing, wrapping his arm around her shoulder in a gesture of defense. His brow furrowed as he directed a discontented gaze towards my arm, and then turned his ire towards my mother. Lin Wei, how could you care for a child and not notice so many injuries? You spend your days in foolish merriment, yet remain oblivious to the suffering of the child. He unceremoniously placed the blame squarely on my mother. My mother, taken aback by this sudden accusation, went pale. Mingzi, I didn't I check every day. I truly didn't see these before. Didn't see? Did the child inflict these injuries upon herself? Su Mingzi's tone was severe, leaving no room for my mother's defense. Seeing this, Li Wanqing immediately chimed in, her voice quavering as she subtly shot glances at my mother. Mom, Mingzi, please don't blame my sister-in-law. Perhaps she didn't mean it. I've heard that some new mothers experience emotional instability postpartum. They might succumb to depression. It's possible she was just momentarily upset and lost control of her strength. After all, Mingzi has to balance two families. It must be hard on her. As a woman, I can understand. Her words, though seemingly conciliatory, were insidious, each sentence pushing my mother deeper into the pit of postpartum depression and child neglect. Upon finishing, she forced a sympathetic smile and stepped forward. Sister-in-law, raising children is tough. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me. Come. Let me take a look at you. It's common for little ones to have bumps and bruises. I can help you with the care. She extended her hand, feigning an intention to embrace or examine my injuries, yet her fingertips subtly sought to inch closer to my arm.
Now was my moment.
I erupted into a wail far more piercing than before, my small body recoiling violently as I desperately tried to burrow into my grandmother's embrace. My tiny hands clung tightly to her clothing, my cries rendering me almost breathless, my face flushed crimson, my eyes brimming with genuine terror. It hurts. It hurts. I'm scared. Wah! I sobbed, using every ounce of strength to vaguely point towards Li Wanqing before swiftly retreating to clutch my grandmother tighter. My reaction was so intense that anyone could see it was not mere childish tantrum, but profound fear and aversion. My grandmother's expression darkened ominously. She tightened her hold on me, pivoting to shield me from Li Wanqing's reach, her gaze sharp and unwavering. What do you want with her? Li Wanqing's hand froze midair, her feigned smile faltering. Mom, I just wanted to help. Help? It seems to me you are guilty of wrongdoing. My grandmother rebuked sternly, her suspicions clearly aroused. Wang Ma, bring me the surveillance footage from the nursery and the living room for the past few days. Immediately. Mom, is that really necessary? For such a trivial matter, Su Mingze attempted to intervene, believing my grandmother was overreacting. Silence. My grandmother's furious shout silenced him, causing him to swallow his words. The surveillance footage was promptly retrieved and played. As the screen displayed Li Wanqing stealthily approaching the baby carriage multiple times, brandishing a slender, needle-like object and forcefully jabbing it towards me, the entire living room fell into an eerie silence. Li Wanqing's complexion drained of color, her body trembling. Well done. How dare you, Li Wanqing? You would harm my granddaughter, the very flesh of the Su family. My grandmother, enraged, shook with fury, pointing towards the door. Get out. Leave the Su family at once. We have no place for a woman with a heart as venomous as yours. Li Wanqing was dragged out, crying and pleading. However, my biased father, in that moment, was not concerned with his injured daughter, but rather with defending the wicked sister-in-law who had been exposed. He actually knelt before my grandmother, pleading for Li Wanqing. Mom, please calm down. Wanqing was just momentarily confused. She must be struggling with postpartum emotions, perhaps lost in thought. She has always been good to Yu Wei. She is a wonderful mother. For the sake of Yu Wei, who is still so young, please forgive her this once. It was just a couple of pricks. Yugo is fine, isn't she? Children recover quickly. Fine? Su Mingze, have you lost your senses? That is your daughter. My mother finally could contain herself no longer, crying out in despair. But Su Mingze shot her a disdainful glare. Be quiet. Isn't it your fault for being so inept that you couldn't even care for the child properly, leaving room for such incidents? If you had cared for Yu Wei like Wanqing does, how could this have happened? He then turned back to plead with my grandmother. Mom, you know Yu Wei is exceptionally bright. She is destined for greatness. She cannot grow up without her mother. If Wanqing leaves, what will become of Yu Wei? She is the hope of our Su family. Yu Ge is so foolish, like a clump of mud that can't be molded. How can she ever compare to Yu Wei? My grandmother regarded him, the fury in her eyes gradually replaced by an overwhelming sense of disappointment and coldness. After a few moments of silence, she slowly spoke, her voice imbued with a barely perceptible chill and probing tone. Su Mingze, I find it truly perplexing. Li Wanqing stabbed your own daughter, Su Yugo, yet you plead for the perpetrator and turn your ire towards the victim's mother. Even now, your concern lies with Li Wanqing and her daughter, Su Wei. Her gaze bore into him like a blade. Why do you show more concern for your brother's daughter than for your own flesh and blood? Su Mingze, as if grasped by a vice around his throat, found all his pleas and indignation suddenly lodged in his throat, his complexion paling, mouth agape, yet no words emerged. In that moment, my mother saw the truth clearly. The man before her had long since turned his heart away from her and from our family. The flicker of hope that had lingered in her eyes extinguished, replaced by a chilling clarity and resoluteness. Time passed swiftly. Indeed, Su Mingze was often absent from home. It was rumored he had purchased a lovely house for Li Wanqing, under the pretext of conveniently caring for his brother's lineage, but in reality, he was living with Li Wanqing and Su Wei, forming their blissful little family. Yet I was unfazed, for my mother seemed to have transformed entirely. She no longer acted hysterically, nor did she pressure me into proving I was superior to Su Wei. She never mentioned piano, dance, or mathematics competitions again. Instead, she took me to countless places. We would lie beneath the night sky on the prairie, spending an entire evening adjusting a small telescope, waiting for a legendary blood moon to rise. As that copper-hued orb slowly ascended, she wrapped her arms around me, her voice gentle yet firm. Gidge, look, the moon has its own orbit, sometimes full, sometimes waning, sometimes bright, sometimes dim. Yet it never needs to compare itself to the stars for brightness. In this lifetime, finding what brings you joy and steadfastly walking your own path is enough. Nestled in my mother's embrace, warmth enveloped me, and I thought to myself, indeed, embracing a carefree existence was the right choice. I entered elementary school. By some twist of fate, I found myself in the same class as the overachiever, Su Wei. Watch out, school is my domain. Witness how I crush you on all fronts, and make you realize who the true chosen one is. Su Wei, her spirit aflame with determination, was ready for battle. Soon, the school announced an art competition. This time, the first prize will undoubtedly be mine, Su Wei declared with grandiose ambition. She pushed herself to create 10 sketches daily, her fingers trembling and her eyes darkening from exhaustion. Meanwhile, I found the colors in art class delightful, occasionally doodling the starry skies and prairies my mother had shown me. On the day of the competition, Su Wei, having overexerted herself, suffered from muscle stiffness and spasms, rendering her unable to hold her pencil steadily. The lines she produced were crooked and uneven, ultimately resulting in her failure to secure a prize. As for me, the hastily submitted painting titled The Red Moon in the Night Sky, with its audacious and dreamlike colors, did not secure first place due to its excessive abstraction. However, the judging teacher scrutinized my artwork for a considerable time and, in front of the entire class, remarked, "Classmate Su Yuga's piece, though technically immature, displays an extraordinary sensitivity to color and a unique imagination, truly a talent. Why is it that despite my immense effort, she receives praise for a mere scribble?" I refused to accept this. Su Wei was so incensed that she nearly tore the paper in her hands. Following this was the autumn sports meeting. I must prove that I am the versatile one. With gritted teeth, Su Wei registered for no fewer than 5 events, from sprints to long jumps. In her quest to maintain a so-called light physique for optimal performance, she barely ate in the days leading up to the competition. Consequently, during the final stretch of the women's 200 meters, darkness clouded her vision, and she collapsed on the track, requiring assistance from the school nurse. Meanwhile, I, glancing at the registration form, slowly marked a check next to the 800-meter run, a distance that all the other girls shunned. During the race, I watched as others shot off like cannonballs, yet I adhered to my principle of nonchalance, leisurely sauntering along the track. Strangely enough, as I persevered lap after lap, maintaining a steady pace and heavy but controlled breathing, the previously raucous playground gradually fell silent, all eyes converging on me, the sole remaining contender in the long-distance run. When I finally crossed the finish line last, the audience erupted into applause more fervent than that reserved for the champion, showering me with encouragement and cheers. The physical education teacher gave me a thumbs up, proclaiming, "Su Yuga, your endurance is commendable. Persistence is victory." Exhausted, I plopped down onto the ground, panting, yet a small joy flickered within me. Meanwhile, Su Wei, who had just regained consciousness after being administered glucose, seethed at the sight of me surrounded by admirers.
Su Yuge.
"Just you wait, it's all your fault. Why is it that my hard work results in mockery, while your slothfulness earns you everything? Ah, how I loathe you." Her thoughts brimmed with resentment, and her gaze towards me was sharp as a poisoned dagger. Indeed, her hatred for me was intensifying. Yet, I was merely finding a comfortable rhythm for myself, accompanied by my mother. The track is long, as is life, sometimes, in the race to be ahead. It is far better to walk the distance steadily and joyfully. In the stands, my grandmother and mother observed everything unfolding at the sports meeting. My grandmother's eyes gleamed with approval as she turned to my mother, saying, "Lin Wei, you have raised Gidge splendidly. This child possesses a steady temperament, neither arrogant nor impatient, akin to a sturdy little tree, aware of when to bask in sunlight and when to take root and grow. Such composure is rare." My mother, cradling the exhausted me in her arms, gently wiped the sweat from my forehead, her smile radiating unprecedented relief and pride.
Mom.
It was Gidge who discovered her own comfortable rhythm. I used to want her to compete, but now I realize that allowing her to be herself is the greatest gift. Following this event, my grandmother's regard for me deepened. She began taking me to her company frequently, allowing me to peruse picture books in her spacious office or doodle on the back of discarded report sheets. She noticed that I seemed to possess an innate sensitivity to those densely packed numbers. On one occasion, she intentionally altered a summary figure in a report slightly and left it on the corner of the desk. I crawled over to play, pointed at the number with my little finger, and looked up at my grandmother, saying, "Grandma, this number is incorrect." My grandmother, astonished, probed further and discovered that I could somewhat haltingly sum up the preceding figures she had read to me, arriving at the correct total. Overjoyed, she embraced me repeatedly, exclaiming, "Oh, my little darling, this is a gift from heaven." Yet, she and my mother reached a consensus, never to force growth. My grandmother remarked, "Talent is like a small flame. It must be carefully nurtured, fed with suitable fuel, for blowing too forcefully can extinguish it." My mother wholeheartedly agreed, "Yes, Mom. I simply wish for Gidge to be happy. It is wonderful that she enjoys numbers, but we shall not pressure her. If she wishes to learn, she may, and if not, she can play." Thus, my childhood remained carefree. My grandmother would show me interesting graphs and charts, teaching me to recognize numbers, as if playing a game, while my mother would incorporate math into everyday life, such as weighing ingredients while baking or calculating discounts while shopping. My sensitivity to numbers and logical thinking quietly flourished in this relaxed environment of learning through play. Conversely, Li Wangqing's approach was entirely different. She was acutely aware that Su Yue had repeatedly lost to me in both art and athletics, and upon hearing that my grandmother had begun personally mentoring me, perhaps with an eye towards cultivating my potential, she became utterly frantic. How could it be? That fool's daughter overshadowing my genius daughter. It must be that Lin Wei, that wretched woman, had employed some underhanded means to curry favor with the old lady. She channeled her fury over failure and her anxiety about the future into an intensified pressure on Su Yue. "Yue, you must work even harder. You must trample Su Yuga underfoot and prove you are the most outstanding heir of the Su family. Do you hear me?" "I hear you, Mom. I will definitely crush that cannon fodder into the mud."
Su Yue nodded earnestly.
Thus, her journey of competition spiraled into extremity. While other children watched cartoons, she attended advanced math classes, English tutoring, piano lessons, and ballet classes. Li Wangqing devised a schedule for her that was so strict it was broken down to the minute. Failure to comply resulted in a smack on the hand or punishment by kneeling. Su Yue visibly grew thinner, her childhood innocence fading prematurely, leaving only an exhaustion and a fierce intensity that belied her age. Gritting her teeth, she vowed internally, "I will outshine everyone. Su Yuga, just wait. When I grow up, everything will be mine." Time flew by, and both Su Yue and I graduated from university. My grandmother announced that we would both intern at the corporate headquarters, starting as basic marketing assistants. Her intention was to train us while observing our progress. However, for Li Wangqing and Su Yue, it was akin to the commencement of a war that would determine our destinies. On the first day of the internship, Su Yue unleashed her full force. "The first battle must be a resounding success. I will ensure everyone sees my capabilities and dedication." She donned a discreetly elegant yet expensive professional outfit, arriving first at the office to wipe down each colleague's desk, prepare coffee, and print all necessary documents for the morning meeting, her smile flawless and her actions efficient. Meanwhile, I clocked in punctually, offering my mentor and colleagues a slightly shy yet sincere smile. "Hello, I am Su Yuga, a newcomer who knows nothing. Please guide me." Then I quietly settled into my assigned workstation to familiarize myself with the internal systems. During the morning meeting, the manager assigned a task to verify a massive quarterly sales data report from our distributors, due by the afternoon. Su Yue immediately volunteered, "Manager, let me handle it. I promise to finish before lunch." "Humph, this tedious work is perfect for showcasing my efficiency and meticulousness. That lazy Su Yuga will likely avoid it altogether." The manager nodded approvingly. However, in her pursuit of speed, Su Yue skipped lunch, her eyes glued to the screen, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Yet, due to her heightened stress and physical fatigue, she inadvertently misapplied a key formula in one column during rapid input, causing a cascade of subsequent data errors. When she checked, she focused solely on whether the final figures appeared reasonable, completely overlooking the fundamental mistake. In the afternoon, shortly after she confidently submitted her report, the manager summoned her into his office, his expression grave. "Su Yue, what on earth have you done? How could you make such a basic error with the data? Fortunately, it hasn't been sent to the distributors. Otherwise, the company would be a laughingstock. Do you understand the serious consequences this could entail?" Su and Wei's faces turned pale in disbelief as they snatched the report to examine it themselves, ultimately uncovering the foolish error in the formula. How could this be? I had worked so hard. Meanwhile, I was unexpectedly drafted by the manager to assist in rectifying the issue. I took the flawed document, and rather than blindly recalculating from start to finish like Su and Wei, I habitually skimmed through the overall structure and logical connections of the data. It is a little quirk of mine. I prefer to identify patterns and sensations first. Suddenly, I pointed to one of the summary data points and said, "Manager, the growth ratio at this node seems inconsistent with the preceding and subsequent figures. It appears rather abrupt. Could this be where the formula went awry?" The manager leaned in. Astonished, indeed, right here. "Su and Go, how did you notice that at a glance?" I scratched my head and replied, "I just felt that this number seemed a bit out of place." The manager was overjoyed, patting my shoulder. "A genius. You possess an innate intuition for data. A promising talent." Su and Wei stood to the side, watching me receive praise, her nails digging painfully into her palm. The second occasion arose when the department required a temporary team to collaboratively prepare a competitive analysis report. Su and Wei eagerly volunteered to lead the group. This time, I must lead the team and create the most flawless report. I want to showcase my leadership skills to Grandma. She took on an excessive amount of responsibility, assigning her team members daunting tasks and demanding that each individual unearth a plethora of details, while she herself burned the midnight oil to compile and write, striving for perfection. Her high expectations resulted in a sluggish progress, prompting complaints from her teammates. Ultimately, just half an hour before the presentation, she was frantically revising the PowerPoint, leaving her no time to meticulously check the equipment and backups. During the presentation, her computer unexpectedly blue-screened, the PPT unsaved, leading to a complete disaster. An awkward silence enveloped the meeting room. "I'm so sorry," Su and Wei said, her eyes brimming with tears as she scrambled to reboot the computer, but to no avail. I had a preliminary outline and core comparative data charts on hand. Softly, I spoke up, producing my USB drive. I had noticed Su, the team leader, was too preoccupied. So I saved my logical framework and a few comparative charts. While not as detailed, the fundamental ideas and conclusions were there. The mentor promptly took the materials and projected them. My charts were clear and concise, emphasizing key points. Though not as perfect as Su and Wei had envisioned, the core argument was evident, garnering praise from the leadership for its clarity and focus. Grandma was present and observed Su and Wei, who was flustered and sweating, then glanced at me, calm and composed, shaking her head slightly. The third incident occurred when an important client unexpectedly visited the company, leaving the designated reception manager stuck in traffic. The front desk was in a flurry. Seizing the opportunity, Su and Wei quickly straightened her attire and took a deep breath. A golden opportunity. If I can impress this client, I will surely make a name for myself. She strode in high heels, approaching with impeccable poise, launching into an enthusiastic recitation of the company's introduction and product advantages at a rapid-fire pace, eager to impart all the information in one go. The client attempted to interject several times with specific inquiries, but her relentless barrage of information thwarted their attempts, their expression growing increasingly strained. I had just returned from downstairs with a package when the front desk attendant seized me. "Yuga, please go to the conference room and pour the client a glass of water. Keep the conversation going. Don't let it fall flat. The manager will be here in 10 minutes. I nodded, poured a glass of warm water, and entered the conference room just in time to hear the client struggling to interrupt Su and Wei, their tone growing impatient. "Miss Su, what you're saying is great, but I'm more interested in Su and Wei," oblivious to the client's underlying message. Continued reciting her script. "President Wang, the advantages of our product also lie," and I approached, gently placing the water in front of the client, and softly interjected, "President Wang, are you looking to understand the stability data of this product in practical applications? I just happened to compile a summary of the laboratory testing records yesterday. If you need it, I can retrieve it right away." The client's eyes lit up, immediately turning to me. "Yes, that's exactly it. Little girl, you're quite perceptive. Hurry and bring it to me." Su and Wei stood frozen, her smile shattered. "It's her again. Why is it always her? I've prepared for so long. And she just want to pick up a package. Why does she get the spotlight?" I returned with the materials, and the client appeared very satisfied, nodding repeatedly. By this time, the manager had also arrived, seamlessly taking over the negotiations. Later, the client specifically complimented Grandma. "Chairwoman Su, you have a remarkable granddaughter. She is calm and articulate and knows how to get to the point." Grandma smiled and nodded, her gaze filled with pride as it rested on me. As for Su and Wei, her excessive desire for performance and anxiety nearly ruined the reception, leading to a harsh reprimand from Li Wanqing upon her return. She watched as I seemingly triumphed effortlessly, her inner jealousy and resentment reaching a boiling point, her expression dark and foreboding. I knew she would not let this matter rest. During the group's most significant annual project presentation, Su and Wei's eyes were bloodshot, clearly having pulled yet another all-nighter. Her coffee cup trembled slightly in her hand, not from fatigue, but from a determination to take desperate measures. This is my last chance. I must humiliate Su and go in front of the entire upper management. If she makes a mistake on stage, Grandma will completely abandon her. Her thoughts were sharp and anxious. This little bit of medicine will cause her stomach cramps, rendering her speechless. Watching her in her near-manic state, an indescribable emotion welled up within me. It felt as if I were observing a past version of myself. She approached with 2 cups of coffee, deliberately placing one in front of me. Yuga, perk up. We will need our energy for the presentation. However, I did not reach for the cup. Instead, I looked up and softly inquired, Su and Wei, are you tired? She froze momentarily. The forced smile on her face instantly frozen, as if she had not comprehended my question. What did she say? Tired? Is she mocking me with a new form of sarcasm? I continued to gaze at her. You always arrive at the office an hour or 2 early. Working until the early hours of the morning, exhausting yourself like a never-ending whirlwind. Are you truly not tired? Su and Wei became utterly rigid. Tired? Tired? How could one not be tired? Since the dawn of memory, her life had been filled with effort, competition, and relentless pressure. She had even forgotten the last time she slept in without a care, the sensation of play, and that life held purposes beyond merely winning. No one had ever asked her if she was tired. Her mother had never inquired. She only asked if she had won that day. She had never asked herself, nor dared to ponder the concept of tiredness. A single tear, unanticipated and uncontrollable, slipped from the corner of her eye. Then came the second, the third tired? She choked, as if questioning herself while also responding to me. How can I be tired? My mother said if I cannot surpass you, I have no value in living. I have worked so hard. Why can't I ever win against you just once? Observing her breaking down, I fell silent for a moment, making a decision. Because I had died once. I spoke softly, Su and Wei. She abruptly looked up, her tear-streaked face filled with disbelief. In my previous life, I had believed my mother's words. To prove a point, to surpass you, I had also exhausted myself in relentless competition. My voice remained calm. I learned everything from you, working harder and pushing myself more than you, never allowing myself a moment of slack, and I lived my entire life in pursuit, only to die of sheer exhaustion, forever remaining beneath you. I never once triumphed. Su and Wei was utterly stunned, her mouth agape, forgetting to let her tears flow.
What did you say?
Her voice trembled violently. I remarked, in my previous life, I toiled and struggled just like you, ultimately succumbing to exhaustion without ever having triumphed over you. I gazed at her, reiterating my words. A profound sense of absurdity and shock rendered Su Yue's mind a blank canvas. At that moment, I smiled with a sense of release. Lifting the cup of coffee she had tainted with poison, poised to take a sip.
No.
Su Yue suddenly reached out, knocking the cup from my grasp. There's poison in that. I looked at her, displaying an understanding smile. I am aware. Su Yue stood frozen, staring vacantly at my calm demeanor, at the stain on the floor, and reflecting on my earlier bewildering statement. We exchanged glances, and silence enveloped the air. After a lengthy pause, Su Yue unexpectedly began to laugh. It dawned on her that all her schemes had been laid bare before me. The fierce competition she held dear as her very lifeblood had, after enduring a lifetime of anguish, been discarded like refuse. It became evident that both of us, in starkly contrasting manners, had been worn down by the very notion of being entangled, one of us exhausted from a past life, the other on the verge of collapse in the present. The presentation proceeded as scheduled. Neither of us mentioned the earlier events. Perhaps due to that abrupt moment of honesty and reconciliation, the previously adversarial atmosphere between us dissipated, replaced by an ineffable sense of understanding. I was responsible for the data presentation, articulating it with clarity and emphasis. She handled the prospects, surprisingly shedding her previous penchant for superficiality, adopting a much more composed demeanor. Our collaboration flowed unexpectedly smoothly. Grandmother sat in the audience, watching us, her eyes reflecting unprecedented relief and satisfaction. The presentation achieved unparalleled success. After the meeting, grandmother approached us, gently patting our shoulders. Well done, both of you. Su Yue lowered her head, remaining silent. The following day, a resignation letter appeared on grandmother's desk. Submitted by Su Yue. Grandmother regarded the application, not particularly surprised, but looked up gently at her weary yet serene granddaughter. Have you made your decision? Su Yue nodded, revealing a genuinely relaxed smile. Grandmother, I have made up my mind. I am utterly exhausted. I wish to pause, sleep well, and experience the world outside. To truly understand what life ought to be. Grandmother remained silent for a moment, slowly nodding, her eyes reflecting both pride and a hint of sorrow. Sometimes, one must indeed stop to journey further. Go, my child, pursue what you desire. It was said that upon hearing this news, Li Wanqing shattered every breakable item in her home, her screams and curses nearly toppling the roof. Useless wretch. I raised you for nothing. How can you face me? How dare you lose to the daughter of that vile woman? Come back.
Come back.
But what of it? Su Yue had already grasped her suitcase, boarding the train bound for a distant town. Outside the window, fields rushed by in a blur, sunlight gracing her face, warm and authentic. This was her life. At last, she could truly live for herself. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and show your support with a like. Until we meet again in the next story.